All right, this man to the side of me is a proud member of the Fox Sports Radio Alumni Association. Jake Warner is with us. You can find him on Twitter at Big Brother Jake. He is a must follow. He's also got a podcast out that is getting some big headway with iHeartMedia, the Big Brother Jake podcast. Am I getting that right?
Got it right, my man. Right.
So I want to.
Oh, I don't want to cut you off, but it's an honor to be on your podcast, sir.
Stop it.
Oh, come on, man. The Finley Fanatics, man, they're growing numbers. And people got to realize this is a full record with, man. It's an honor to be on your show, brother.
Well, I respect you a lot, Jake, and have certainly looked up to your career, and I can't wait to dive into it because you, sir, have accomplished a whole lot, worked with a lot of great people, and you yourself are a class act. So this is Jake Warner. Get to know him, everybody. I'm Bryan Fenley. I'm on Twitter at Bryan Fenley, and I work at Fox Sports Radio. And, Jake, you are a radio veteran. You know the ins and the outs. You are a producer. You are an editor. You are a host. The list goes on. And I'm going to ask you about your podcast. I want to ask you about what you've done with the Clippers and are doing with the Clippers and FSR. But, it's crazy. You think about this. We're taping this on September 10th. And tomorrow is September 11th.
Yes.
You were working at Fox Sports Radio on that day. What do you remember from your perspective?
Okay, so I remember I was actually working the mixing board, filling in for Tony Bruno that morning. And there was a show on previously before that. And he always insisted we had the news on while he was doing it. So I'm looking to the monitors to the left, and we see one of the buildings of the Twin Towers on fire.
Yeah.
And it was bad. And we were like, oh, wow, this is really happening. And just looking up there. And so, we're already getting news reports. He's like, yeah, I want to talk about it. So we're like, okay. So no sooner than we look at the monitor and see that, we saw the second plane go into the building and to the second tower. And we were just stunned. I mean, I get goosebumps just thinking about it right now. We were just in disbelief. And Tony Bruno, to his credit, he said, no sports. We're going all in. We're going to keep the people, informed. And, he's like, Jake, you're in the military. Do you have any? I was like, man, whatever you need, Tony. And so we just flipped to all news for probably a good 10 days. But I'll never forget that morning because it was one of the most eerie, odd, weird things I've ever encountered in my radio career. So, yeah.
What did you talk about the successive days afterwards in the aftermath? Because you are a veteran, you've served this country. And so how were you able to impart that kind of experience onto what was taking place in our country?
Well, what we did with the listeners, we gave them a platform to vent about how they were hurting, how everything was so different. We lost a big part of it. And let's just keep it in mind, too, the Pentagon and Pennsylvania, all those things had happened. My cousin, Maurice, lives across the street from the Pentagon, and he saw everything happen there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so we had him come on a couple of shows. He was willing to do that for us. But we just let people have their voices be heard and let them vent. Even people that say, let's just get back to sports. Yeah, you know what? You have a platform. And I try to, with whatever military experience I had, I try to just kind of tell people the intelligence part of it, what we're trying to do as a nation to counter back, and that, it's as bad as it was and how devastating it was, we will bounce back from it. Yeah. And we did, and it took some time, but those 10 days, I'll never forget, the most eerie, all the fun was gone.
Yeah.
For all news, and any new facts we were getting, we were reporting them, but we wanted to be there for the listeners. And I think we did a good job with that. And it's probably some of my most proudest work.
Wow.
my radio career.
So essentially, Fox Sports Radio turned into a
Absolutely.
national news outlet.
Yes, they did.
Wow.
And to everybody's credit, they really did well with it. But I will commend Tony Bruno for that. When he saw it, he was just I'll never forget the look in his eyes. And Andrew Siciliano now with the NFL Network.
Yeah.
Working with Tony Bruno. See, that's how far back I go to Fox.
Wow.
And we're all just sitting there just numb, and we had to be on the air in 4 minutes. And so he said, nope, no sports. We don't care. We're flipping. And all I remember was just printing up a whole bunch of papers and, like, calling people in New York. Evan Mandelbaum, that was the producer for Tony Bruno at the time, he was on the phone trying to reach people from because he's from New York, so he was getting on. We were just getting anybody we could on the phone from New York or D.C. or Pennsylvania to let the listeners know what's going on.
Wow.
Yeah.
When sports started to re-enter the conversation and people got back to, to having sports and to get a level of normalcy-ish back following those attacks, you have had some incredible experiences working with all kinds of different hosts at Fox Sports Radio. And one of the many I love, and I love all of them, but one who I've had the chance to work with, and you have as well, is Ben Maller. And you are, I guess you would consider yourself part of the Maller militia. I like to think. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so you understand the genius of Ben Maller and the creativity. When did you first meet him, and what was that like?
Okay. So when I met Ben Maller, I was working weekends at the time. I was working like 3 or 4 different jobs in Fox Sports Radio. You know how it is when you get into the business. You're working all these odds and ends jobs. And I was working 3 radio jobs at the time. But he was an update anchor when I met him.
Wow.
Yeah, that was after he was a host with the almighty Ben and Dave show on 1150.
Okay.
570 in Los Angeles. So I always loved listening to that show. I was a big fan of Ben and Dave's, and so I'm walking down the hallway, and I see at the time, Ben was really big.
Yeah.
That's why I got so much love for Ben, because he's overcome a lot.
Sure.
And, I was like, Ben Maller? He's like, yeah. I was like, you don't know me. My name is Jake Warner, but I'm a fan of yours, and just want to say it'd be fun working with you. So I would run like recorded shows that were on CD and best of shows, because we didn't have a lot of programming back then at Fox Sports Radio. And Ben would do the updates. And we would have a lot of fun, and we just talk radio when he wasn't doing an update.
Yeah.
And I didn't fully, pay attention to whatever I was running at the time. And then he got an overnight show on the weekends. And they asked if I wanted to do it because I was familiar with Ben. Wow. I didn't hesitate. I was like, hell yeah, I want to do that show.
Wow.
And I always, we always like listening to the old school sports radio that was on in L.A.
Yeah.
Jim Healy, we were big fans of that. We both would talk about it, and I love cutting up drops. A lot of those drops you hear on the Ben Maller.
Yes. Okay.
Years ago.
That's amazing.
I did all that. I sound like that bitter old guy. I did all that.
Yeah.
So we started on the weekend overnights, and he's like, play all the sound effects you want. If you want to pop on the air, I'm like, hell yeah, I want to pop on the air. I want to be heard,
Sure.
And so we turned that into a lot of fun, and then all of his followers and listeners took on a life of their own. Now they're the Maller Militia.
Yeah.
It started on that nice little Saturday overnight show that I look forward to doing every weekend. Oh, my gosh. It was fun, man. A lot of fun.
Jake Warner is with us. Follow him on Twitter at Big Brother Jake. Go download his podcast. Do it right now. It's all over iHeartMedia. The Big Brother Jake podcast. I'm Bryan Fenley. I'm on Twitter at Bryan Fenley. Okay, working with Ben, Jake, when was the time, if you recall, when you laughed the most at something he said?
Well, this is my pre-Clipper days.
Okay.
But before I started working with him. But, I am still a Laker fan. I let it be known, even though I work for get my paychecks from the Clippers. I am a Laker fan. And they know that, too. My bosses know that, so it's all right.
Yeah.
He said something so outrageous. I remember exactly what it was, But he said something so outrageous, like, and the Clippers, when I was working there, were awful. Like, not even playoff bound, nothing. They were just god-awful bad. And he's like, oh, and the Lakers are the worst team in the NBA or something. But it's the way he said it with conviction. I literally fell out of my chair laughing. Like, left the board alone on the floor, hurt myself, laughed my butt off, man. I couldn't believe it, and some of the stuff he just says is asinine, but he says it with such conviction.
Yeah.
Almost like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's crazy, but yeah, that was the first of many times.
Yeah.
And as time went on, I would laugh at how he would always cheat at the games we would play.
Oh, absolutely. He's notorious for that. He denies it all the time.
Yeah, he still does that mess.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I would laugh because, like, you're cheating so bad, like, it's comical. Like,
It's so obvious. Yeah.
And so those are the times I remember just laughing really hard, man. Like,
and the callers too. They are so entertaining.
yes, for Alexis and
who, by the way, Philexis is like hitting on me on Twitter. Like she's like hitting me up on Twitter.
No surprise there.
She said, Philexis said the other day, she's like, you have a pretty mouth. I'm like, well, that's interesting. That's one way to give a compliment. I have a pretty mouth of all the attributes.
Some of those callers, man. I mean, a lot of them, they got me through the night just listening to them and laughing. But I don't care, and people have gotten mad at me for this, but Cowboy from Windsor was like the absolute worst caller I could not stand. Like, I would get every sound effect over his call until he was – and to his credit, he would never go off script. For like 4 years straight, he would do it, and he never – I think I got him off script one time. The callers are just so – they took on a life of their own. Mallory Militia, man, I love those guys because they've always supported, even when I was going to – I got my degree late in life at 38. Sure. I'm 40. But they would even call me like, hey, are you doing your homework while you're doing the show? I'm like, yeah. I'm running the board. I ain't going to lie.
Yeah.
But they are amazing, man. Mallory Militia, they're a lot of fun. And if Ben didn't have them, man, he'd be in trouble. I ain't going to lie. But they got each other well. They really do.
Outside of Ben, during your time working with hosts at Fox Sports Radio, without you asking a host, what host or, and I certainly don't want to single one out if there are tons, but like just the first one that comes to mind where a host went above and beyond to help you, to look out for you.
I don't mind naming them if you're okay with it.
I don't. Yeah.
Okay. So there's three that really looked out for me. Like without a doubt. Okay, four. Tony Bruno. He would always help me out, give me advice on how to handle the business and don't get discouraged. And that was a lot of great advice. Jim Daniels was another host that was on at Fox Sports Radio. He did overnights. And Jim, he wasn't a sports guy. Jim was like a jock, like a music. But he would always do hot talk. And he was able to do sports really well. It was like, I'm going to just say it. When we were like Dan Patrick before Dan Patrick had the Danettes. Like,
interesting. Okay. Yeah.
We would all talk. We'd jump in there. We would do games like the 25-cent pyramid. We would steal ashtrays from hotels and give them away as gifts, if you won games. But Jim, he would go to bat for me, and I was doing a lot of work like extra work. I only had like 28 hours off consecutively, and he went to bat for me, got me more money, got me like more rest because I needed that.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was overworked at Fox at that time. We were shorthanded. Another host, JT the Brick, was another one that really looked out for me. We would butt heads here, and I'm not going to lie, because I wasn't afraid of him. I wasn't afraid of any host, and I wasn't going to take any crap from any host,
Yeah.
I grew up in San Bernardino, California, so I didn't fear anybody. Like,
yeah.
Hey, word about you,
Yeah.
Probably could, though. I'm not a tough guy at all. But, JT and Tom Looney, both of them, good guys.
Totally.
They helped me out. And Stephen A. Smith, when he was at Fox Sports Radio. Yeah, he worked hard. And anything I needed, support, if I needed him to go to bat for me, he was always there for me. So those 4 hosts, like without a doubt, they helped my career out a lot. And there's nothing I wouldn't do for any 4 of those guys. They called me at 5 a.m, I'd be there for them.
Wow.
Yeah, it's that. I'm that close with all of them, and I love them all. And there's a whole lot more hosts, but like those 4 are the ones I've worked with, and of course Ben. Like Ben's
Yeah, of course, Ben.
And I love all those guys. I walk through the fire for each and every one of them. If they needed anything, I do anything for them.
One of the fascinating things, Jake, is I love to go back before, like, for example, like when you have a guy like as big as a talent as Stephen A. Smith,
yes.
you see, he is at the top of the sports media game, but I love looking at where they were before they really got their humongous break and before they took over.
Yeah.
It seems like you met him at his life path when he was starting to really rise the ranks. Mm-hmm. What was he like just getting to know him, watching him do his work?
This is what I love about Stephen A. Smith, and still do to this day. He takes his job very serious. He doesn't half-ass anything. He puts in the work, knowing that he doesn't have to. He puts in the work. He's always thorough, and he always wants to make sure the show is good. If he's not feeling that the show is good, he'll let us know about it. And he also trusted our opinions and our experience working with him. So anytime we would tell him, this isn't working, let's not go this route, he would trust it.
Wow.
He was always there early. I was always the first one because I knew I had to be ready to, get things cracking. And so he would just put in the work, and he was never afraid to ask questions, even to this day. If he didn't know something, he would ask. He was never above that. And one other thing, when I first met Stephen A., I knew he was starting to rise. And Jake Warner's your name? Yeah, they call me Big Brother Jake, whatever. I said, there's 2 things I will not do for you. I will not get your coffee, and I won't lie to you. If you can have, we can be friends. And he was like, man, yeah, you're staying. You ain't going nowhere.
Wow.
And I would tell that to every host. Some hosts, they were like, yeah, we'll see. I'm like, I'm not getting your coffee. I'm sorry. I'm here to work, But if I liked them, I'd help them.
You'd help them out, yeah.
But that's how we hit it off. And then I would just see his work ethic. And then after work, I've worked with a lot of people, right? When, top of the hour hits, they're in their car already gone. Not him. We'd stick around. We'd talk, even though I'm running another show after his. And he would ask, what could we have done better? What could we do to enhance the show? And that was something that I loved watching day in, day out with him. And he's like that to this day. And I love the guy.
That's fascinating. Jake Warner with us on Twitter at Big Brother Jake. I'm on Twitter at Bryan Fenley. Speaking of media, sports media darlings, from Stephen A. Smith to Vin Scully.
Oh, yeah.
And that brings us to a story that I'd like to ask you about in your dealings with Vin.
Absolutely. I had a lot of great times with Vin Scully. I was blessed enough to do 2 seasons with the Dodgers before I ended up leaving because I started a family before I was married back then. But this is like a crazy story, but it's all true, and I got witness.
Okay.
we were still doing spring training games at Vero Beach, Florida, but it was 2003. We were asked by MLB to do a 2-game series, which is weird, 2-game series in Mexico City. And nobody wanted to go. Nobody wanted to go. But it's like, all right, we'll go. And that's when Mike Piazza was still with the Mets. And, it was crazy times. So, being an audio engineer for the radio broadcast, you have these huge boxes like you're a roadie for a concert or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of equipment, and then I realized there's no damn elevator at this soccer stadium.
Oh, geez.
Stories high, okay? So I'm like, all right. So luckily it had wheels, and I'm, a pretty big guy, so I was like lifting it up 7 flights. We get to the 7th flight. I fall face forward, down.
Oh, wow.
Pass out. I thought I died, and I'm going to tell you why. I feel this cold water in the back of my neck. And I hear, and forgive the horrible impersonation, hey, Jake, are you all right? And I'm like, oh, my God, I'm dead. It's Vin.
Oh, gosh.
Scully. He's sick. He's like, don't move, you'll be fine. And he's like, he's rubbing my back. He brought me back from being unconscious. He poured water on my neck.
Wow.
And he's rubbing my back. He's like, I just saw you fall over, and it scared me. So he literally ran over from what everyone told me in the room, poured cold water on my neck, and he just made sure I was all right. And I don't want to be no punk in front of Vin Scully. So I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Let's go, man. I'm ready to go. And he's doing simulcast, but he did the radio side for us. And so yeah, it was amazing. Like I got my pretty much saved by Vin Scully in Mexico places. And we would tell that story to people on the bus rides, because I'd get fortunate enough to be able to sit with Vin on the bus rides going to the airport sometimes. And just a class act, man. Like he's so humble, and it's not an act. Like people are like, no one could be that humble. No, this guy's so humble. But yeah, he definitely saved my life. I'm not gonna. It was amazing, man. I thought I died.
Oh my gosh! And you've got a story for a lifetime to tell.
Oh yeah, I can tell that. That is a great conversation piece when I'm at a party and I'll have one of my friends. Hey, tell a Vin story, Mexico.
Yeah. All right, I'll do it for the 375th time.
Yeah, and I didn't mind. It was fun, but like I grew up a Dodger fan, still a Dodger fan to this day. You see the hat, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like I love that team. I live and die with that team. So to be able to work with him for 2 seasons and travel with him, he wouldn't go east of Colorado, but except for the playoffs. And when we made it, I say we. But when we went to St. Louis and it was like a 5-game series. That's when Jose Lima was with the Dodgers, which that guy is crazy and fun. And Vin loved that guy too for some reason. But they were fun. It was a good time just hearing his stories. I would ask him about Jackie Robinson and how he came up from Brooklyn, you know, and it's just a great man. I'm so blessed to work with him. It's so rich.
You are very blessed. You are very fortunate. You've worked, with the Dodgers, and I mean the list goes on with other professional sports teams in Los Angeles. You're with the Kings now. You're with the Clippers, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm sure you are anxious to get them back to Staples Center, and so we can see those selfies of you on Instagram, the Clipper game. I love it. And Hubby, I wanted to give some love to your podcast, because you just had on Noah Eagle, right? On your recent podcast. So I encourage everybody to check that out. The Big Brother Jake podcast on iHeartRadio, iHeartMedia. And, you know, what's it been like getting to see, you know, Noah and see him thrive?
You know, I got to say this. I was worried because his dad, Iron Eagle. I thought, nepotism at its finest. Here I am just prejudging. And I never do that. And I'm like, I'm going to meet this guy, and I don't know if I'm going to like him, you know. And that's messed up. And I've told him this, so it's not like I'm talking.
Yeah.
When I met Noah, he's a short guy and very, very polite. Like, Mr. Warner, how you doing? I'm like, I know I'm 20 years older than you, man, but no, I'm still young, bro. You call me Jake. He's like, okay, man, you know, I just raised a certain way. But like, he was like, hey, man, do you mind? Like, he was scared to ask me for stuff. And I'm like, I want, man, like, no, dude, you are the man here. This is your booth. Whatever you want, I got you. I'll go down to the press room and get you some waters or something to snack on. But his attention to detail and how he preps for every single broadcast, really second to none. He's just really into what he does, and he has a great time doing it. And to watch him work, he's so excited to be there.
Yeah.
And he knows how blessed he is because he came right out of Syracuse and was highly recommended by the higher-ups of the NBA. And watching Noah work and watching the excitement, it's just something I love. It makes it fun for me again. It doesn't make it boring.
Yeah.
And I've worked with a lot of play-by-play broadcasters over the years, hundreds.
Wow.
And there's very few that I would say I love working with and I can't wait to see them. But working with Noah every night, and Adam Osland does the pre and post, you know, shout out to Adam Osland.
I want to get him on. He's one of the guys I'm going to reach out to next, actually. So that's awesome you brought him up.
Yes, Adam's a great guy.
Yeah.
And we have so much fun in that broadcast booth. It's like we're like, we get paid for this? Like, no, come on.
Yeah.
And it's slowly converting me, into a Clipper fan, I guess you could say.
That's right.
It's like
you should join the Clipper side. I've been a Clipper fan probably since the late 90s when they were really bad.
Those teams were really bad. I remember you used to be able to go to the sports arena, pay $10 to get in, and by halftime you're like fourth row.
Yeah.
I remember when the Clippers would have opposing players advertise, "Hey, I'm Charles Barkley, and next week the Clippers face us, so why don't you come down and watch us versus the Clippers?" I'm like, man, wow.
Yeah.
He plays on that team, like,
Yeah.
So yeah, but not to go too far off track, but like Noah Eagles, one of the consummate professionals. You would never know he's 23 years old. You would think he's 50 because of his approach and his knowledge of the game and how he puts his little spin on it. I love working with him. He's really one of the most amazing broadcasters I've ever worked with, and I mean that.
Yeah, I hope I get the chance to meet him one day. And
we'll make it happen, man. He's a great
awesome.
Man.
And someone who, like myself, I've been a Clippers fan ever since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. I actually met by chance at a Taco Bell Eric Piakowski. You remember Eric Piakowski?
Oh, yes.
He was such an underrated three-point shooter, and I loved him because I always thought, like, I wasn't athletic. I couldn't really do that much, but I could shoot. And I'm like, he looked like somebody that I could sort of emulate in my dreams. But so that was really cool. And then getting to know, gosh, I wonder if you probably even know him. Mm-hmm. Rob used to be the PR guy for the Clippers. Rob Reich. Yeah. So that was a couple years ago, but
yeah, Rob's a good guy. They've had a few in between then.
Mm-hmm.
They got a lot of great people there. I'll tell you another person that's great to work with that I had the opportunity for 1 year was Ralph Lawler.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And that's why, like, watching you right now with the microphone, it reminds me so much of Ralph.
Yes, he loves to hold the mic.
Yeah, because he's over here, I got all kinds of props. And I'm like, Ralph, he's like, well, if you want me to use headsets, I'm like, I'm not going to be that one engineer that, So he's just like you, just holding the mic. And I love watching him work. It was more work for me because I had to balance the sound out. But
sure.
And he was a lot of fun. And I didn't think he was as fun as, I was like, oh, this guy's probably serious. He cracks jokes the whole game.
Yeah.
And it was such an honor to work with him. And it was an honor to be at his retirement party after his last game.
Wow.
Personally.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and we had a great time. And yeah, it's great to watch him. Bryan Seaman, before he went to TV, is another one. He did radio. And Bryan and I loved each other. We had like a love-hate relationship. We hated each other, but it's because we loved each other.
Yeah.
Rick Monday when I worked for the Dodgers. It's the same thing. Like, we had that relationship. We love each other, but we're always mean and curse each other. But Clippers are a family, man. And watching all those guys and being able to work with all of those announcers and the PR staff, it's amazing. I'm not just saying that because I work for them. Because it's just fun to be around all those guys, man.
Give us a sense, Jake, what you're doing now, because I know there's still a holding pattern and life is trying to get back to normalcy, hopefully sooner rather than later. But like, you are a guy who is always a grinder. And that's what I admire about you, because that's what it takes to stay afloat in the business. And so what does that mean? That means you have a job here, you're doing something here, you've got a project over there. So kind of like wrapping this up, like, tell me all the different things that you have your tentacles out to right now.
Well, the thing is right now, like, because of COVID-19 and affected sports all across the board, a lot of people don't think about the other people, the ushers, the
right.
people that guide you to your seats, the concession people, broadcast engineers. I'm in limbo right now because we don't know how this is going to end, how the season's going to start, when it's going to start, probably around Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a whole new world So in the meantime, like I work for Podcast One. I'm a producer there. I produce podcasts. I work with a great website called westcoaststyles.com. A little shout out to them. I'm a reporter there, and I interview like a lot of musical guests and
Cool.
talent that's homegrown on the West Coast. I got my podcast going on, trying to get sponsors, Big Brother, Big Brother. And I don't say no to anything, Bryan. Like,
that's how you meet. Yeah.
I build studios for people. I will host a fill-in when I can because I got all the equipment here. I make music, custom music for people. So if, anyone needs a beat, holler.
Sure.
So I keep afloat, man. Because I grew up in San Bernardino, California, and I grew up with nothing in the projects. I ate baked potatoes 5 times a week, or spaghetti be the next meal for 4 or 5 times a week.
Wow.
And so I learned how to hustle. I grew up, I was homeless for a little bit as a child. Like, I moved to a new city. I lived in Barstow, California, a little spotty town on the way to Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
And we moved there because my parents got divorced. We didn't have a place to live. We grew up, I was homeless for a few months, and I was take showers at my aunt's house. And so I grind. I would go collect cans. I'd mow lawns. I had a paper route. I did whatever I could. And I carried that because you know this business the way you do and the way I do. Tomorrow's not guaranteed in our form of business. That's why I love watching when you post your stuff, because it reminds me, like, yeah, man, I miss those days. Like, I love going into a studio or into an arena.
Sure.
And it's just the best feeling in the world. It's like, man, I'm not worthy of this. Like, I shouldn't be here. Why am I here? And it's like, nah, I deserve to be here. I worked my ass off, like you. And so I keep afloat just doing those kinds of things, odds and ends. And I hope things get somewhat back to normal so I can enjoy working with the Kings and Clippers again. But I'm optimistic about it. And I'll do whatever it takes to stay in this business, man, because I love it way too much to give it up. It's like a drug, man. It's like heroin. You get that taste of radio, and you get the crack open, and you're like, man, this is everything, and I get paid for it. So I'm just like, any chance I get to work, I love it. And for anybody that's starting out in this business, man, you do whatever it takes. I started in promotions for Westwood One.
Wow.
Office manager. Then they said, hey, we need somebody to work for Loveline and answer phones. So I was I did it for free, all while working odds and ends jobs that I hated. And I just got married, no kids yet. And I didn't say no to anything. And finally, my came to Fox Sports Radio, and I was making enough. I could quit all the other jobs. And then the Dodgers came, and then the rest is history, man. I've been very amazing career in radio, and I wouldn't trade the highs or lows for anything.
Yeah, that's powerful, because the struggle is so hard at the time, but then it makes the result when you get there, whether it's you at Fox Sports Radio or, with these professional teams you're with, it just makes it that much more fulfilling, because you're like, gosh, when this opportunity comes, like, it wasn't easy, to say the least. Like, we all have those stories, like the grind stories where I don't want to speak for you, but at least for me, where it's like, it gets so bad where you're like, I'm just going to give up. I'm just going to give up. The rejection, it's like, why do I even keep going? But it's like, do you have the persistence to go and survive through that?
Yeah, because, the way I am, I'm very positive. I'm a hashtag fake philosopher. That's, I like to post positive quotes every day.
Yeah.
I always think about the end result. Try to look at the big picture. Like, right now, it's hard. Like, I quit radio full-time from 2014 to 2018. I would still dabble in it and do freelance work, but I was tired because I was like, I'm banging my head against the wall. Things aren't, and I want to be on air. Like, that's what we all kind of want to do, end result. And all people want to, oh, man, you great with mixing audio. I'm like, I don't want to do that forever.
Sure.
Or you do good imaging, shout out to Vio Violante,
Yeah. By the way, he's been following a lot of these podcasts. He watches them, so he'll probably see this.
Good. I love Vito. That's my dude, man.
He's a funny guy.
Yeah, Vito is one of the most funny guys in the world, and so damn talented. And he and I would work together, And we just had a lot of fun, man. So, but as much as I love imaging, I didn't want to do that neither. I wanted to be on there, and there's no one that wanted to give me a chance. I was willing to work in a smaller market. I was blessed to either do national radio or the Los Angeles market my whole career.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that's rare. And I just got tired of it, man. And I took a break. I said, man, working at an office sucks. I don't miss this. And so I had to get back in it, man. And thank God for Bryan Blackmore.
Oh,
he said, look, man, I know you used to work for the Dodgers. We got an opening for the Clippers and the Kings. You want to do both?
wow.
I said, hell yeah. He's like, I haven't telling you how much it was. I said, man, I'll make it work. I don't give a damn. And
Wow. That's the attitude you got to have, though.
Yeah. And it took care of me. And the rest is history, man. Like, back at it, and it feels good, but never give up. If it's something you want to do, with radio, you got to be strong to be in this game, man. And a lot of people don't realize that. They think, I could just go in there. No, the one time you slack, someone's taking your job.
Yeah.
I always work, I call it hungry like an intern, and I hate to take a vacation like Ben Mauer.
He does hate it.
He hates it because he doesn't, he told me, I don't want to be knocked out of here. So what I would do, I would make such great notes for my fill-ins. It's like, it's foolproof. And I would do everything I could, but I never liked to take vacations because, hey, somebody's better than me. But I'm like, no one's going to be better than me. I'm going to put in the work even on vacation. So if you want this bad enough, you can make a great career out of it, great living. I've been around the world 3 times because of radio.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen things and been invited to Super Bowl week and worked that. And I've worked some NBA finals. I worked, baseball playoffs. I mean, I've done it all. And that's hard work, man. And networking,
Yep.
Got to network in this business. Even if you don't want to, you got to. And if you have the passion and the love for it, you will always be successful in this business, man.
Jake Warner, speaking the truth. The man radiates positivity. I think that's another reason why I enjoy being in your company, because I as well try to look at things optimistically.
Me too, and I love you for it, man. I really do.
Follow Jake on Twitter at Big Brother Jake. Go download his podcast, the Big Brother Jake podcast, iHeartMedia. Give him a follow. I'm Bryan Fenley. I'm on Twitter at Bryan Fenley. Jake, it has been a pleasure. I cannot wait until the Staples Center is up and operational. We get you back to Clippers and Kings, and you get going again, because I know how much it means to you, and I want that for you so much.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on your podcast, man. Like, who's who of everybody is on your podcast. So, I break my way on, like, hey, man, on here. On, and you're like, yeah, why don't you do it? I'm like, oh, for real. So, the Finley fanatics, don't let the Maller Militia or Ben Mauer punk y'all, man. Like, you guys got some movement. And Bryan, you're a fearless leader, man. You show these people. You kill them with that smile and you go for the kill, bro.
I love it.
I love watching your podcast, man. As often as I can, I love to check it out. And thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
We are going to do this again, and would love to do this.
Have you on mine?
Let's do it. Let's make it happen, man. Anytime. Okay. And like you said earlier, you never say no to anything in this business. And there's never, you should never be in a position where something's too big for you, because where we start is, I started, a lot of what I did was, minimum wage for a while when I was in college, but like, it's just like going back to what you were saying, it's just take every opportunity you get, because even if it's not what you want, it can just as easily lead to that before you expect it.
Absolutely. Somebody's always watching, and that's what you got to realize too.
Yeah. Somebody's
always watching you work. So you never half-ass it, man, because you never know when you get that call like, hey, man, I saw you grinding, playing best of CDs for us or DATs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they use DATs anymore. But, like, I used to use reel-to-reel even when I worked at Westwood One.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I'm old, man. But, you never know who's watching. And at one time you're busting your ass and you work really hard, you get that opportunity, man. It's just you got to grind.
You got to grind. Jake knows how to do it. I'm just trying to follow him. Jake,
Man,
thanks again.
you're well on your way, man. But no, thanks again for having me on. I appreciate it.